Raise your hand if you have ever been to an event or social gathering where you didn't really feel like you fit in or belonged. Wow, there's a lot of hands. I know I have. So, as a university student, when I first started, I was really excited to embark on this new journey. But one thing stood out to me that, to be honest, made me a little bit nervous. And that was this whole idea of the freshers' experience. This whole culture of drinking and clubbing, which I've never really been into, to be honest. But it seems that when we get to university, regardless of which university it is, there is a great pressure to join in because everyone is doing it, right? People would say, come on, you have to do it. Everyone is doing it. But why? I thought to myself. Why must I make myself fit into something that I know isn't right for me? And you see, the problem of this is that this is seen as the typical experience. But by making this generalization, you are excluding those who don't subscribe to it. So this made me start to think about the true meaning of social inclusion. And that is what motivated my talk today. Consider this. According to The Conversation, a trusted source for research and articles in UK academia, 50% of students don't feel like they belong at university. 50%. Now that is a huge percentage. This statistic tells us a stark story that inclusion, as we currently understand it, isn't delivering on its promises. Yet many organizations and workplaces believe that they are inclusive because they have a variety of members. But diversity doesn't equal inclusion. You see, diversity refers to the presence of difference in a given setting, but inclusion refers to creating spaces where everyone feels valued, respected, and able to fully participate regardless of these differences. So the reality is that without intentional action, social exclusion continues, just in a less visible form. This is what I call the illusion of inclusion. And I'm going to tackle this by looking at three key aspects: the effect, the solution, and the benefit. So let's go on to the effect. What is this cost of the illusion? I'll start by telling you a couple misconceptions. Like I said earlier, some people think that inclusion is just about physical presence, but that's not all it is. You see, when it comes to inclusion, we want to make these two concepts of diversity and inclusion collide so that integration takes place and people can gather and not just feel like they are truly part of something and not merely just showing up. Another misconception is that inclusion means treating everyone the same. But we're not the same. No one is the same. Even identical twins who share almost 100% of their DNA are unique. They have unique fingerprints, they have different characters and different personalities. So why do these misconceptions matter and why must we debunk it? Let's look at it this way. Can you truly bring out the best in a person by putting them in an environment where they're uncomfortable? It's like putting a fish on wet sand rather than in the ocean, because you are forcing them to conform to a standard that isn't their own. In fact, I know someone who was invited to the club by her cousin. So she went, she sat at the back, ate a bag of peanuts, and then fell asleep. So, because this is something that her cousin thought was very exciting, but for her, this wasn't her kind of environment. So she did not enjoy it at all. And normally she would have great conversations with her cousin, but not there, not in that environment where she didn't like the noise. She's having to shout, her voice is getting hoarse. No one can hear her, they can't hear her, you know? So she just thought, let me just sit in the back. And they even called her boring because of it. Or maybe this isn't your experience. Maybe you're the type that would just skip out on the event completely because you don't think you would belong there. How does that feel? Is that really inclusion? Maybe you felt excluded, or maybe you were seen as out of the ordinary, like you're the one who's in the wrong. for not fitting this pre-existing mold of what people think normal looks like. So you see, in either case, no one wins. The individual doesn't win because they aren't being their true, authentic self, but also the community doesn't win because we are not embracing the diversity that makes us stronger. So that means these two scenarios I've given you don't sound great at all, yet it's what happens. So let me give you a third option. Here's a solution. It's a simple framework of 3 things, 3 A's. Ask, advertise, and accept. So ask. We must stop assuming what people need and want and ask the right questions. So my younger sister, she has severe allergies to wheat and nuts. So that made going to social events like birthday parties, family barbecues, quite tricky, especially when she was younger. So often she would go, she would see what everyone else is eating, burgers, chips, chicken nuggets, pizzas, biscuits, you name it, it was there. And then she would open up her lunchbox, and in it would be a gluten-free ham and cheese sandwich. Now imagine the shock and disappointment on her face about what she had compared to what everyone else had. So once we noticed, we tried to make her lunchbox a little bit more exciting. Or better yet, hosts would even reach out to us and ask, what can she have? And then they would provide her with a gluten-free menu of what all the other kids were having. Now this made a massive difference because now she wasn't just present at the mealtime, but she felt like she was really a part of something, like she belonged there. And what this example shows is that we can't just stop at the invitation, but that asking the right questions makes such a huge difference to the experience and to inclusion. Even on a personal level, when you are the one who feels excluded, when you are the one who feels like you don't belong, you have the power and the right to ask questions and advocate for yourself. So you could ask, would there be non-alcoholic options at this event? Do you offer a different variety of events? We have to get comfortable asking questions because it is so important and crucial to this whole process of true inclusion. The next step is to advertise. We need to make sure that when we have events, that we advertise it in a way that everyone knows that they can come to it. We must be able to publicize it in a way that people don't feel excluded just by the event. For example, if an event is in the pub, you could say, we also have non-alcoholic options. So if you don't drink, it doesn't mean you can't come, you can. And then someone can look at it and think, yeah, I can go to that. Or even, nah, that's not for me. But the point is, they know that they can go, and that decision lies with them. So I've spoken about asking, I've spoken about advertising. The next step is to accept. We must learn to respect and listen to people's boundaries and preferences. We can't get so caught up in encouragement that we aren't truly recognizing where people's boundaries lie, especially if the reason people don't engage in certain activities is because it doesn't align with their own values and beliefs. So what we can do if this occurs is to actually ask them a question. So what do you like to do instead? And that brings us right back to that first point about asking. So I've spoken about asking, advertising, and accepting as our solution. But what is the true power of inclusion? What is the benefit? I want you to imagine a society where everyone isn't just invited to the table, but everyone actually has a part to play in shaping the direction of that society. Too often are people focused on representation or the invitation or the statistic, and less so about the experience. So my challenge to you today is simple. Start asking the right questions. Advertise to make inclusion visible and accept people's preferences. Because the power to break this illusion and embody true inclusion starts with you. Thank you.